Hi, welcome to the Workshop Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew, and joining me today is Mr. Brandon Millichamp of at Tectonic Creations on Instagram. How you doing today, Brandon?
I'm doing great. It's a lot warmer where I am at my hotel room than it was earlier today, so I'm doing a lot better.
So how cold was it at your job site?
With the wind today, it was like minus 33. The wind was like up to 60 kilometers an hour, so...
Oh, that's gross. So for the American listeners, that would be what? That'd be probably, well, if minus 40 is minus 40, they'd be looking at 28 degrees, something like that. Minus 28 and about 30 mile an hour winds.
Something like that. It'd be minus 27.4 to be exact.
Oh, that's cold.
It's not warm, and it's only going to get worse. So on Saturday, it's supposed to feel like minus 46.
Oh, gross. That's getting cold.
Yeah, and I
worked out in the oil field, when I worked in the oil field, I worked a few times when it was that cold, and it's just when your eyelashes start to stick together, then you know it's starting to get cold.
Yeah. The coldest I've worked in was minus 52 in Saskatoon on night shift, and the winds were about 75 kilometers an hour. That was not a fun time.
I worked, again, when I was working in the oil field, the coldest I got, I'm not sure exactly how cold it was, but it was below minus 60 because I was driving up to the job site or to the rig site. And a little bit before that, I saw on my truck, it said minus 58 on the little dash thermometer thing, right? And when I got to the job site, it didn't say anything anymore. It just said low. So it was below minus 58.
Yeah, it's cold when the truck doesn't read the temperature anymore.
Yeah, it's just like, nah, screw this crap. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the next couple of days, but do what we can anyway. Take lots of warm-up breaks, all the fun stuff in between.
So how much of your work do you have to do without your gloves on so your hands get really cold?
Right now we're not putting in bolts anymore into the structure, so a lot of it's with gloves, fortunately. So that's good so far, but we will be doing some stuff where I'm gonna have to take my gloves off and do a little bit finer work. So see how that goes.
Yeah, that was my come to Jesus moment to go back to school when I was working in the oil field. I was up on top of a rig crown installing some stuff, and I've been awake for a ridiculous amount of time. It's been 30 hours or something like that. And there's this 40 mile an hour wind blowing, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and minus 30 something. And I got these little, they would have been, it was a 1/4 inch bolts. So what is that? 9/16 or something like that. A nut, right? And so I'm trying to fiddle with these stupid little tiny bolts up on top of the crown in this wind and crap. And I was like, you know what? This sucks. I'm going back to school.
I don't blame you. I don't know why I'm still out in the field, but here I am. It's
well, I don't
pays the bills.
I don't know if it's paid off for me or not.
Yeah, there's give and take. I do enjoy working outside and building structures and stuff, but the cold weather just takes a totally different toll on you.
Yeah, that's my problem, right? Is like during the summer I look outside and I'm like, oh man, it would be so nice to be back working outside again. And then winter rolls around and you're like, nah, working inside's a nice thing.
Yeah. The interesting thing about the company that I work for now is their work is primarily through fall and spring, and they don't work in the summer.
Oh, so you're going to have summers right off.
Yeah, which is not terrible for me because I could either go decks and fences or other woodworking stuff and carpentry-related things, or enjoy the summer with my family instead of being laid off into winter like I typically would be when I would do concrete work.
Yeah, that's actually the ideal situation is you work all winter long and then, oh no, I'm on unemployment all summer long. What a shame. I better go try to find a job. Ha ha ha.
Right? And then I could go enjoy some camping and canoeing and all sorts of stuff with my family instead of being miserable laid off in the wintertime.
Oh, you can come up and help me build a house, I suppose. Help me do all my concrete work.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Sounds like you're going to be starting that pretty soon. So.
Well, hopefully, we'll see. We got plans in the works, and we'll see how they all work out. But one thing's for sure, we got to get out of this town here. And it's nothing against the town or anything like that. It's just, talked about it on the podcast. My wife has about her allergies and stuff. And we were actually gone from here for a week, or not quite a week. 5 days. And, she's massive rash when we left. And 3 days later, it was all gone. Get home, been home for a day and a half, and it's starting to come back again. So we're like, yeah, we're allergic to something here, or you're allergic to it anyway. So it's as good of an excuse as any to get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Go build a new house, something that you like. Learn some new skills if you're working on it yourself.
Well, at this point, the plan would be to start to do like from beginning to end as much of it as I can do myself, and so set up the sawmill and mill up all the lumber, and maybe do a bit of a timber frame type of thing as well, all the way to the bitter end. Build isn't that every obsessive compulsive woodworker's dream, is to build your house and everything in it?
Yeah, like if I could build my own house from start to finish, take a year off and build it, I probably would. I have the skill set to do it. It's just the time and the funds.
Yeah, well, that's the advantage of being on disability, right? Is I have the time, not necessarily the funds, but if we can finagle things the way we're planning, hopefully we'll have enough. And then, doing it myself and providing a good portion of the materials myself, it's just my labor, right? And so if I pay myself $100 an hour, I can justify saying this is a $500,000 house.
Exactly, and depending how big it is and what the materials cost, sounds like it'll be a nice house. I love timber frame style homes; they look fantastic.
Yeah, I like timber frames way more than I like log cabins. Like you see some pretty impressive log cabins out there, but there's too much wood in them. Whereas a timber frame, you get the nice big beams and you get that look, but then you have some nice white walls and flat surfaces too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. The log cabins, they'd look cool because you get some of those great big cedar logs. They have a great big feature log sometimes. They look really nice, but it's like you said, it's just too much log in the home. Where I feel like you get more creativity and freedom with a timber frame home for the styling, I think, over a log home.
Yeah, a log home, you're almost stuck with having deer antlers and what's that, like Arizona Aztec pattern blankets, you know what I mean? All the triangles and stuff.
Yeah, there's not much freedom for styling log homes, from what I've seen anyway. There's probably different ways around it, but it's pretty limiting.
Yeah. Since this is a design podcast, we really should talk about that some more, I suppose, right?
Yeah, maybe.
So how many days a week or how many days of the month do you spend on the road working versus at home then on average?
So right now with this project, I am 14 days at work and 7 days at home.
So that gives you a decent chunk of time at home then, but at the same time you're gone for 2 weeks since you have that week that you have to catch up on everything.
Yeah, it's a tough balance, but I get 7 full days, so it's not terrible. So I get to spend a lot of time with my family and work on projects if I have time to do that with all the other stuff that I got to do running around. And now that the holidays are over, I don't have to travel as much, so that's kind of nice.
So do you get like 7 full days? You don't have 1 or 2 of those or travel to and from work, or you actually get 2 of your work days to travel on?
Well, I technically get 6 days. I travel on 1 day to work, and then we work an extra half an hour every day, so that way we get paid to travel home on 1 day.
Well, that's nice.
And the day that we get to travel home is a day of double time, so I can't really complain about getting to go home and getting paid for it.
Yeah, no, you can't complain about that.
No, so it's
so how do you balance your... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's a pretty fair deal for us so far. So.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I've always thought that I would rather work an extra half hour or even an extra hour and have, because once you've worked 8 hours, there's not a whole lot of difference between working 8 hours and 10 hours. Once you start pushing 12 hours, then you're starting to get a little bit worn out. But 8 and 10, you're fine. So why not work 10 hours and get a day off, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we're working 10 and a half right now. But we finish at 5 o'clock, go to the trailer, and wait for half an hour. So I'm not even working. So I get to hang out in the trailer before we leave and then get paid to drive home.
Yeah, no, that's the way to do it.
I can't really complain.
So how do you balance that work time, shop time, family time type of thing? Do you have any tips for those of us who struggle with that type of stuff?
Well, for me, I kind of dedicate the first couple of days being home, with my full attention to my family. And because I have a 3-year-old and I have an 8-month-old right now, and they deserve my full attention when I get home. They haven't seen me for 2 weeks. That's, especially for my 3-year-old, that's a long time. He doesn't really understand why I'm gone. And every time I video chat with him, it's just like, I miss dad when coming home. I want to see you. And it's tough. It's really tough. But I make sure that they get enough time with me, and then I also plan different things to do if they don't have group or other activities at the time, because he's not really at school in September. So I'm just trying to plan things out and make sure everybody gets enough time. And if I don't have any other obligations, I try to make shop time or lack there of my shop, because I have 12 by 12 shed, so it's not much of a shop, but I try to make do. As a carpenter who works in the field, I do what I can. So.
Well, there's another question that comes up actually, or that I think about, is you tend to work with your hands all day long, right? And then I talked about it a few podcasts ago, where if you work with your hands, you rest with your mind, and if you work with your mind, you rest with your hands, right? So if you're always working with your hands, then you're resting with your hands as well. Do you find yourself getting demotivated to do stuff in the shop?
It depends on what I'm doing. So if it's like a home renovation project, I get kind of demotivated about that. But if it's a project that I have a lot of passion for, like this past skeleton project that I did for one of my animals that passed away, that was something that I was really excited to get finished. And now it's technically unfinished because one of my other pet lizards passed away. So he's going to get articulated and added to that same display. So a little bit more work to be done on that. But it'll be a great memorial piece for some beloved pet lizards that I own. But if it's a project that I'm excited for, I always want to continue working on it. And sometimes I get frustrated, so I put it on the back burner for a little period of time until I'm ready to go back to it.
You're the only person that does that. Everybody else in the world, they just completely push through and keep working on things and never put anything on the back burner, right?
Right? I try not to put them on the back burner for too long, because sometimes I don't want to finish it.
Yeah, that's I go into my shop and I look around and I'm like, there's something I should finish. There's something I should finish. I should really do that. Oh, I should really do that. But there's a shiny thing over here. Let's do that instead.
I have the same problem. It's just like, I should really get this finished so it's out of the way. Ooh, look something else. Or I make a modification to the workspace or whatever I decide to do.
Yeah, like you won the Patreon hammer giveaway there, and it's sitting in the exact same position that it has been since you won it, basically. It's sitting in front of my computer in my shop and waiting for me to do the next step. And then today I was out there and I looked at it, and I've been here's the problem with my sorts of projects, right? Is you get into that time crunch thing, and then suddenly things become important to get done, and so you focus on that and get it done, right? And so there's all of these little projects that I should have done in the house we've been here for 5 years, and there's all these little things I should have done, and so today was one of those, I can just rip this out really quick and get that done. Meanwhile, the hammer sits there off to the side looking at me reproachfully.
It's okay. When I go home, I have to go look at my bathroom that I still need to trim the door on and finish the baseboard in the bathroom, and I haven't done that. I did most of the renovation 3 months ago.
Well, you're on top of things if it's only 3 months ago on trim work. I mean, that's,
Yeah, it's just aesthetics at this point. Everything else functions.
Before I got married, I took my wife to meet my family, and she stayed over at my brother's house because my parents were gone and I was home by myself, blah blah blah. Anyway, and I built my brother I helped my brother build his house when I was 15, 16, somewhere around that, right? And we were there. We got married when I was 23. So that's, I'm terrible at math right now. My brain's not working. 7 years later, right? And my wife my fiance at the time was uncomfortable because there was no trim around the bathroom doors. And so all my little nieces and nephews, they're like 4 years old or whatever, right? Or like peeking through the door when she's in the bathroom, in between the door jamb and the wall. And then fast forward, would have been probably 5 years ago. So we've been married for 17 years this year. So that's 12 years after we're married. So, like closing in on 20 years after this house was built. And he finally got the trim up around the doors.
You just need a reminder every couple of years, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I tell my wife every once in a while is when a man says he's going to get something done, he's going to get it done. Nagging about it every 2 years isn't going to speed it up.
I try to accomplish projects in a timely manner. We all know how that works.
Yeah. It's when I'm getting paid to do a job, like when it's a when I was working in construction, or when I'm building a piece for somebody, like a custom furniture piece or something like that, then I tend to be focused and get the stuff done pretty quick. But when it's a personal thing, it's one of those, this is what I'm doing for enjoyment, so I'm going to do what I enjoy right now versus what I have to get done, right?
Yeah. And I try to finish projects because I enjoy seeing the final product sometimes, depending what it is. And so sometimes I push through. Sometimes, as most people do, I just get sick of working on it. Or it's not perfect in that moment, and then you're just like, I can't work on this right now.
Yep.
But I've come to learn that sometimes you're not able to achieve perfection, so sometimes good enough is good enough.
Sometimes you're not able to achieve perfection, or all the time you're not able to achieve perfection.
I'm a human being. I can't achieve perfection all the time, and everybody's definition of perfection is different too, and what everybody views as perfection is different.
Yeah, that's true too. I'm always interested to see. I've started a personal challenge, and I'm going to start doing these YouTube videos. I think along with this is I want to do like 30 projects in 30 days, and they're not going to be like big, massive things, but just like little. This needs to get done. This needs to get done. This needs to get done type of stuff, right? And it's funny when you do stuff like that, how your mind switches from I'm going to do dovetails with quilted mahogany everything to crap, just screw it together, it's good enough, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it all depends on the situation. Sometimes you want it to be as nice as possible. Like with my skeleton display, there's mistakes that I've made that I've noticed, but other people aren't going to notice those mistakes. And I was trying to do my pet the best justice I could for the display, so I wanted it as perfect as possible. Like when I went to route the lip of the acrylic dome off, I scarred up the bottom of the lip, so now I want to order a new dome for it, so it's perfect. It just irritates me when I look at it. It's like, I messed up. It doesn't look as nice as I would like it. But most people aren't going to say anything.
Well, yeah, and most people won't even notice. But I mean, there's definitely times when putting the effort in and doing the best job you can and using the best materials that you can and all that is important. But then there's other times, like, I made a hammer rack for all the little hammers that have been kicking around my shop here a few weeks ago now, and they've been in the way and hanging around, laying on the surfaces for weeks, months even, probably even years. And finally, I can just screw together a plywood shelf, drill some holes. I can be done in 10 minutes, and they'll be up on the wall. I always think, I need to practice my hand-cut dovetails. And so that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to dovetail it together. And that would look nicer, no doubt. But for that, screws and plywood's good enough. If you want to do something like a memorial for your pet, then that's a whole different story.
Yeah, exactly. It all depends on the application. Not all of us have a YouTube-ready workshop.
Yeah, that'd be nice if we all did, eh? I guess mine's not bad, but I can't complain anyway.
I just need a bigger space so I can build my canoe at some point. That's one
of those projects that would be fun to do.
Yeah, like because the kit that I found is it's basically like a stitch and glue kayak, but for a canoe. So it's a little less work, but it's lighter and stronger than a strip canoe, which is really astonishing. So that's something that I want to build. It looks really nice, and I just need space to do it. So I might rent a shop at some point to build it. Maybe in the summertime when if I'm not working, that'll be a good time to do it. I won't be able to use it this summer probably because it'll take forever to finish. But At least it'll get built at some point.
Well, you could always buy yourself a 40-foot sea can. That'd give you enough length anyway.
Yeah, but they're just so narrow. That's the only downside. I was thinking about doing that, and then I thought about it. I was like, it's just not wide enough, especially in our Canadian climate where I got to insulate the damn thing. So that really reduces the 7.5 foot inside dimension quite considerably.
That's true.
So,
that is true.
So I've been thinking about what my solution would be and what's cost effective. Because if I'm just using it mostly for building a canoe, is it worth renting a shop space or getting a sea can or vice versa? Sea cans aren't as cheap as they used to be. They've gone up in price. Holy.
Yeah, you used to be able to get them dirt cheap.
Yeah, now it's on average for like a 20 foot is like $2,500, sometimes more.
I mean, to be fair, that's still cheaper than building one out of wood and sheeting it and all that jazz. Or maybe close, but
yeah, it's probably around the same price ish. For probably a 20 foot by 8 foot structure if you were to build it. But if I buy a sea can, I don't have to build it. It saves me time.
Exactly. Yeah, that's where I'm going down the rabbit hole, planning the house and shop and stuff, and I keep thinking to myself, the dream woodworker's shop would be a nice big timber frame structure with wood paneling, wood ceiling, and all this stuff, right? And with my own sawmill, I have the capability of doing that. But then you go down the path of how much time is that going to take?
Yep, that's a lot of time and waiting for material to dry properly, depending on what the materials can be applied for, and lots of other stuff. And where you're going, you have an abundance of pine, so
yeah, there's lots, and I mean, I actually know a guy that has a kiln too, so I can definitely expedite, but then that increases your cost, right?
Yep. Yeah, there's a guy not far from my house. They do hardwood lumber, and he's got a big kiln and a monster saw. Holy crap! They cut like 60-inch diameter trees out there. It's crazy.
Was that what's it? Pipestone Timber? Is that up near you?
Yeah, he's out in Wizard Lake. It's like 40 minutes from me. It's not far. That's where I got my slab for my dining table from. I got a big white oak slab.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's he imports a lot of stuff from like Manitoba and Ontario and stuff, doesn't he? Like brings in the logs.
Yeah, they bring in the logs from Ontario mostly. Mostly from around their family farm that's out in that area. Wherever it is in Ontario, I didn't really ask. A lot of the lumber comes from out that way, which makes sense because that's when people first came to Canada. That's where they kind of settled and planted all the other big trees and big walnut trees, big white oak trees and stuff like that. We don't really have too many of the hardwoods out west. We do have some, but not as much as out there.
Yeah, the only decent hardwood we have out, well, in Alberta anyway, is birch.
Yeah, birch is nice though. It's not really hard. It's fairly soft, but it does make some nice furniture. I did a spalted birch coffee table with white epoxy. That turned out pretty nice.
Oh, yellow birch is as hard as walnut is.
Is it?
Yeah, pretty close. It's actually you think it's soft, and it is relatively soft when you compare it to like hard maple and oak and stuff like that. But yeah, it's fairly similar to walnut and cherry.
Interesting. I never really looked at it. Oh, yeah. Between 1260 and 4000, depending on the different species, because there's a lot.
Yeah, I think yellow birch is like 900 or something like that, or 1,000, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I'm just googling it now because now I'm curious.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's 1260.
Start to 1260. Oh, so it's harder than walnut then, because I think walnut is 900 and something.
Find out. Black walnut. That's what most people usually get. Yep, yellow birch is actually harder by about 200 pounds.
Yeah, Janka hardness 1,000 pounds. Black. Yeah, so that I like birch. It's a nice wood to use.
It is. It's nice to work with. It looks nice. I got a couple coat racks out of birch because I bought some spalted birch from a guy out in Cochrane when I lived in Calgary, and it was really nice stuff. It's not as big and wide as some other hardwood lumbers because it doesn't just get as big out this way, but it's still really nice to work with. The color's really nice. I like it. Not everybody does. Everybody's all about that walnut.
Yeah, I had when I had my sawmill and I was living in BC, I got a hold of some birch logs What was the biggest one? The biggest one was it was too big to fit through my sawmill. I had to cut a little chunk off, and so I think the throat on my mill was 26 inches, and I think the birch log was just over 28 or something like that. That's what my dining room table is made out of, is slabs from that tree, and so they're like 16, 18 inches wide.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's just in Alberta we don't really have the moisture for birch trees to grow real large as compared to out in BC. So.
Yeah. My brother has some decent ones on in his log rack that I'm going to pull out and mill up. But I think the biggest one he's got there is 20 inches, so it's not huge, but it's still a decent size for a birch tree from Alberta.
Absolutely.
Anyway, tree talk. This has been wood talk, except we're not as popular as Mark Spagnolo.
Yeah, I definitely don't have that kind of following on my social media.
Nope. Actually, I should get him back on. He was a really good conversation for when I had him on here.
I actually really enjoyed that too. It was a good conversation.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. I like him. There's a social media seems to run the gamut, and there's people like Mark Spagnolo that he comes across as really nice online, and then when you interact with him in a different way, he kind of reinforces that. And then there's other people that you see, and I maybe I'm wrong, and I just automatically judge them. But some people just come across as, I don't think I would like you in person.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling with some people on social media too. They're kind of putting on a persona for their social media platform.
Yeah.
But that's how social media works sometimes, unfortunately. But it is what it is. It's like with acting and stuff, right? Too. Everybody puts on a show.
Yep. Not me. I'm 100% genuine wherever I am. Ha ha ha.
I try to be as genuine as possible. I haven't even posted myself to my Instagram. I don't think. I should probably introduce myself these days. That's one of my goals for this year, is do more posting on my social media page. Should be attainable.
Yeah, I was going to say, it should be attainable for you. All you have to do is post like 3 times instead of twice. And
I've done that already this year, so I'm way past my goal from last year.
Yeah, you and Tony from Woodland Iron, you're neck and neck for posting quantity.
I don't even know how many posts he has. I have 48.
Well, I think he probably has more than that, but I'm not sure he posts.
He has 501
about
posts.
as frequently as you do.
Oh
wow, he's way ahead of you.
He's way. I got some catching up to do.
He's a social media giant. Huh?
Yeah, compared to me. I have just under 500 followers, and he's got 1,135.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been. I reposted the bandsaw blade folding video, right?
Yep.
And it's like sitting at 3.5 million views or something right now, and I don't know if I enjoy it or not, because it's actually kind of frustrating. Instagram is the platform that I interact with people the most often, so I would say it's the friend platform. But when something takes off like that, there's all of these notifications of so and so liked your post, right? And there's like 300,000 likes on it. And so I don't know any of the people, and it just completely buries the notifications and the people that I actually want to talk to or actually want to interact with.
Yeah, that'd be kind of nice if they just had like a feature for something like viral, or some sort of way to sort it out. Like you have all your friends' notifications.
Well, there is some filters on their notification stuff, but they suck. They don't work. It's like I click people I follow, and it still doesn't clear up the notifications. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying. I don't have that problem. So.
Well, I'm famous now, but no. Anyway,
I get like a handful of likes on my posts. I got 12 on my last one.
Well, I try to like them.
Yeah, and you leave comments, which is greatly appreciated.
That's that's one of those things where I get into phases sometimes, where you have to be intentional with the use of your time.
Yeah.
And so when you're doom scrolling, it's easy enough to just double tap the thing and leave the heart and move on. But in an attempt to be slightly more mindful with my social media usage, I do try to stop and leave a comment. But I still find myself often just kind of doom scrolling nonetheless.
Yeah, I do that at lunch breaks all the time, just doom scroll. So I'm trying to be. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos the last few days on how to build bows. So that's kind of intentional, I guess. But on social media, I'm trying to, interact with people that I am friends with on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. Help them out with what I can. There's actually one person that I started talking to through your account, actually. What is their page? I can't remember. They made the coasters for.
Oh, Lindholm.
Yeah, I've been helping him with his concrete.
Oh shoot,
base.
what's his first name? Oh, have you?
Yeah, just giving him tips and stuff like that because I did concrete for a long time and I worked at that architectural concrete shop. His name's Zach.
Yeah, that's right, Zach.
Yeah, so I've been helping him.
Yeah, I actually just got those today.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I've been helping him out with the concrete base, giving him tips and tricks and stuff like that. So he seems to be greatly appreciative of that. And I've been talking to him on Instagram. I found out today he also keeps reptiles like me, so that's kind of neat.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I like talking to him. He's a good guy to talk to. And that's that concrete base video too. That's blowing up for him, eh?
Oh, that's awesome. Which is,
it's
very.
I think he went from like 400 followers to he's over 5,000 now just off of that one video.
He's almost at 5,500. Oh, yeah, 5,453. So yeah, that's close. Yeah, that's super cool. It's really interesting because when I worked at the architectural concrete shop, they would do videos and stuff like that and have that big of a following. Yeah, and that guy's done concrete for the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out what's going to go off and what's not going to, right? Like the bandsaw blade video is a perfect example. When I posted it last January on Instagram, it got 4,000 likes or 4,000 views, and then on YouTube it hit like 7.5 million. And now I repost it here, it's 3.5 million, and it got 40 views on YouTube. I don't know.
It's so weird how all this kind of works out, and it just seems very luck of the draw sometimes. But some people have figured it out and know when to post, what to post, stuff like that. But
yep.
I don't know what to post.
It's a good thing we don't obsess about that.
Right? I just slap up a really crappy reel every once in a blue moon, and it gets a little bit of attention.
Well, I think it's been fun chatting with you. Do you have any parting words of wisdom on maintaining work-life balance for everybody?
Ooh, it's a hard one. Prioritize things. Prioritize times with your family if you can, if that's something that is a priority for you. And then make time for yourself, whether that's in the shop or doing something on your own, having a relaxing time for yourself. We spend a lot of times with our family too, and that can be taxing on your mental health and stuff like that. So make sure you take time for yourself, and make sure if you have a partner in life, make sure they take time for themselves too, because that's always important. That way you have a happy family. You're not getting on each other's nerves because you've been at home for 2 weeks.
Yeah, been at home for 2 weeks without any help.
Yeah. When are you going to work? I leave on Monday. Get out of here.
I always know when I'm in trouble when my wife says, "Go out to the shop."
Yeah. It's a pretty universal language across the board.
Yep. But don't you have something to do in the shop? Yes.
Yeah. And for us, since we have young kids, and I know you have young kids still yet too, it's tough for everybody. So.
Yep. But, well, thanks for chatting. And where can everybody find you?
Everybody can find me on Instagram at tectonic_creations. And I have a Facebook page that it doesn't really cross-post on, so you can find me there. I don't have YouTube. I'm not that good yet, but maybe one of these years, I wouldn't say days, because it might not be this year. I might start it. But yeah.
Well, I will subscribe the moment that you do. I'll be your first subscriber.
Well,
make sure you tell me when it goes live.
Well, with some of the connections from my carpentry side of things, I might start a YouTube sooner than later. Because one of my tool store connections is hooking me up with some potential sponsors. So see how that goes. Which is weird. I don't have much of a following.
Well, then you'll definitely be rich and famous.
Different things I do, right? Maybe I'll do tool reviews.
Yeah, there's not enough of those on the internet, that's for sure.
Right? We need only like a couple hundred more people do a tool review. But
yep.
I don't know. They like the cool projects that I do, so it'd be worth looking into and potentially diving into. So you don't know if you don't try.
Exactly. Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks to everybody for listening. And we'll head over to the after show.
Sounds good.
So if you found anything from this episode to be helpful and you want to reinforce it for yourself, I'd like to invite you to share it with a friend in the next 24 hours. That'll help reinforce it in your mind, and it'll help those around you, which is always a good thing. So thanks again for listening, and now I'd like to say thank you to all the amazing patrons of the Workshop Therapy podcast. You guys make the show possible. If you're finding the show helpful and you want to support it, there are a few tiers, including a simple $1 a month option to just say thanks. For $5 a month, you can get access to the patrons only feed that has a pre-show and a post-show, in addition to the regular podcast all in one feed. You all know that the good stuff happens after the official mics are off, right? If you can't support financially, I totally understand, but I'd love it if you left a 5-star review or told a friend about the podcast. If you have any questions or feedback, I'd love to hear that as well. Send it to questions@workshoptherapypodcast.com and I'll get it on the show. I want to say thank you to all the patrons of the Workshop Therapy podcast, but especially to the founding fathers, and they are Mr. Matthew Serio from Argiano Serio, Mr. Brad Harrison of Brad's Customs, Mr. Keith Drennan of Blackthorn Concepts, Mr. Eric Peterson of Overall Maker Works, Mr. Brandon Millichamp of Tectonic Creations, and the one and only the Grant Alexander. So a special thank you to the founding fathers, and thank you to everybody who supports and shares the Workshop Therapy podcast.